morning, everybody, good morning, it's JPR, and welcome back to another video. I don't know about you guys, but I've always found fossil Pokemon extremely interesting. Similar to starters, there's always some sort of a choice involved in getting them, and more often than not you have to carry around their bones just wondering what they'll look like when they get restored. Or, during times of hardship, we turn to the Helix fossil for its holy guidance. But fossil Pokemon have been handled in remarkably different ways throughout history, so I've decided to take a look through every game and see how fossil and or ancient Pokemon have been approached. In Generation 1, you're introduced to the concept of fossil Pokemon very early into the game, with them first appearing at Mount Moon. It's here where the all-important choice needs to be made, but with minimal information. And from there, you end up carrying these fossils with you for like 80% of the game, not being able to revive them until you reach the lab on Cinnabar Island. Along the way, after you obtain the HM for Cut, you can return to Pewter City to pick up the Old Amber, which contains a fossil for Aerodactyl. I always enjoyed this felt like a true side quest that some people could completely miss. I mean, who in their right mind would actually go back to this museum? It's boring! But I must admit, I do like how Gen 1 gives you this level of intrigue for most of the game. What the heck is this fossil even for? What's it gonna look like when I revive it? And honestly, with these being the first ever fossil Pokemon, I think saving them for the late game just adds to how special they feel. Unfortunately, whether this journey was worth it or not completely depends on which game you're playing. In Gen 1, the fossils are revived at level 30, a little under-leveled for that stage of the game, but it's whatever. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, though, they're revived at level 5. Bro, there's not that many trainers left. Do you expect me to actually grind 35 levels out of these guys? Especially Aerodactyl, who belongs to the slow EXP group? If you're an adult working 40 hours a week, consider these guys off the table. Let's Go, on the other hand, gives you these fossils at the, rather random level of 44. I do appreciate the lack of grinding here, but that does mean you only get to enjoy Ammonite and Kabuto for one level before they evolve. Not that they're enjoyable to use, they kinda suck for that stage of the game, but still, I always enjoy getting to know the Pokemon a bit more before it just evolves. Lucky for me, I got to know a ton about fossil Pokemon in Gen 2. Oh, never mind, they actually are extinct. Except for a singular Aerodactyl that has to be traded for the rarest encounter in the game, Chansey. You have got to be kidding me. Heart Gold and Soul Silver sort of fixed this by allowing you to get fossils from the ruins of Alph by smashing rocks. The reason I say sort of fixed is because you have to wait until reaching the Pewter Museum in the post-game to actually revive them. And of course, they're revived at the pitifully low level of 20. Thank you, Johto EXP system, very cool. Though as sort of a weird consolation prize, you can also find the fossils of Laleep and Anorith in the Cliff Cave during the post-game. Still doesn't take away the sting of them coming back at level 20, but it's a neat thing for dex completion, I suppose. Nearly the only other notable thing about fossil Pokemon this gen is that Brock fittingly has Amistar and Kabutops added to his team, as is appropriate for the Pewter Gym Leader. And all three fossils are featured in the puzzles from the ruins of Alph. I suppose it helps add to the intrigue, but from a gameplay aspect, kind of a lame generation for fossils. Hoenn would give us the aforementioned duo of Laleep and Anorith, with their fossils being found in the desert on Route 111. Side note, I love how you find sea creatures in an area that is now land because, hey, most land was once the bottom of the sea. Subtle Hoenn theming. Nice! The good news is they're pretty much restorable as soon as you find them, again at level 20, which is somewhat under-leveled for this point of the game, but definitely far more reasonable than the first two gens. I always enjoyed how Steven Stone possesses both of these fossils on his team because it's only fitting for the rock nerd he is. This also makes it the second straight generation where the champion possesses a fossil Pokemon, once again adding to their perceived value. Gen 3 also gave us our first living fossil Pokemon, Relicanth. A Pokemon thought to have gone extinct, but has actually lived deep under the sea for millions of years. It's definitely a cool inclusion, despite not being a traditional fossil Pokemon. But Gen 4 is really where we start to see a shift in the presence of fossil Pokemon. With Sinnoh, of course, being a region with a large emphasis on mining with the underground, their two fossil Pokemon, Cranidos and Shieldon, are considerably more common than any previous fossil Pokemon. Cranidos is introduced to us at the very beginning of the game, being on Rourke's team, while Bastiodon is present on his father Byron's team later on. There's also a strange trade-off with obtaining said Pokemon in this gen. For the first time ever, the fossils are version exclusive, but you can also obtain multiple of the same fossil by digging them up through the underground. So you have easy access to breeding for the first time. Similar to the previous generation, you can also revive them nearly instantly, as the Orberg Museum is just a short ride down Cycling Road from Eterna City, where you'll first obtain the digging kit. Black and White would once again bring back the pivotal choice instead of remaining version exclusive. The only downside is that due to Unova's map layout, backtracking to Nacrene City to revive them is a bit more tedious than it was in Hoenn or Sinnoh, but since they're revived at level 25, it seems like for the first time the fossils are appropriately leveled upon getting them. Like in Sinnoh, these fossils are pretty common across the Unova region, being used by various ace trainers or veterans mostly. Most notably, N also uses both Caracosta and Archeops in his final battle, which, while that's cool, how does reviving a Pokemon that's been dead for millions of years and using it for battle supposed to align with his ideology? Anyhow, in an extremely rare L for Black 2 and White 2, the fossils are oddly forgotten about for the entire story. You can no longer get any fossils from the Relic Castle, nor do you have access to the Nacrene Lab to restore them until post-game. I feel like they could have sent a crew out to the Desert Resort to restore Pokemon on the go, but oh well, it just feels like a minor missed opportunity. A bigger missed opportunity would be not subscribing to this channel for more awesome Pokemon videos. Most people watching aren't subscribed, so every person makes a difference. Now, this may come as a surprise, but I think Kalos handles its fossil Pokemon extremely well. First of all, Tyrant and Amara are both amazing designs and even cooler type combinations. They're also given to you very early in the game, as you get their fossils in the Glittering Cave just before the second gym comes up. You can even break the rocks here to find an old Amber. And these Pokemon are once again restorable immediately in Ambrit Town, and you can actually get the Aerodactylite just as early. Should any child have access to a Mega Aerodactyl this early in the game? Probably not, but hey, it's X and Y. Although Grant is probably the hardest fight in these games, if I'm being real. He's one of the only gym leaders to not have one ace, but two. And of course, they're the two fossil Pokemon from right next door. And similar to Steven and N, Diantha will also use the final forms of the two fossils in her champion fight. Overall, I think the fossils have the perfect amount of presence in this region. Which is why it came as a surprise for the first time since Gen 2, Gen 7 would not introduce any new fossil Pokemon. Instead, the fossils from previous generations can be bought from Olivia's jewelry shop in Coney City, and then be taken to the Fossil Restoration Center on Route 8, which is fittingly enough a reference to the Jurassic Park movies which were filmed in Hawaii. Which, again, just makes me scratch my head why there weren't any new fossil Pokemon here. Olivia uses them, they have cultural significance in Alola, so why not? I also feel like they could have expanded the fossil park in the Ultra games. This area just seemed like it was begging to become a prehistoric safari zone, which would have been beyond cool, but nothing ever came of it. And then we ended up getting whatever the heck Gen 8 gave us. As a reference to actual mismatched fossils in the United Kingdom, Game Freak said, hey, wouldn't it be funny if the fossil Pokemon were the exact same way? And, well, let's just say results may vary. Dracozolt and Arctozolt are cool type combinations, but not much more. Dracovish is broken, and Arctovish might be the most forgettable Pokemon of this entire generation. They are also revived at level 10, which is way too low for this stage in the game. Not to mention, the rarity of the fossils are completely determined by which version of the game you bought, so without trading, it can be a pain to get your hands on some of them. I'll also say it, I think the DLC should have introduced what the actual fossils look like. I mean, I'm all for a good mystery or two, but who knows, these Pokemon might actually look super cool in their original forms. Is the gimmick cool? Sure, I'm here for it. But were these guys handled the greatest? I would say probably not. And as a quick footnote before we move on to Gen 9, I think Legends Arceus bringing back Cranidos and Shieldon through these space-time distortions was super cool and creative. And the Hisuian forms, while not true fossil Pokemon, they are extinct forms or species that wonderfully represent the old time period. Some of them, like Sneasler, show off the theme of natural selection quite well, with the more intelligent and aggressive Weavile family winning out in the end. Or even Kleavor's rock armor becoming obsolete and evolving to steel with Caesar. As for Scarlet and Violet, this would mark the third generation without any new fossil Pokemon, but the reasoning for that seems pretty simple, as Paradox Pokemon appear to have taken their place. Maybe having fossils be present would throw the theme of past versus future out of whack, and I don't know what happens after that, maybe Spider-Man 2099 shows up. But regardless, Scarlet and Violet do still have a theme of Pokemon coming in or out of existence. Overall, despite their varying amount of importance and some being handled way better than others, I've always enjoyed fossil Pokemon adding further to the lore and timeline of the Pokemon world. It's actually been 10 years since we got our last duo of traditional fossil Pokemon, so who knows if they'll continue to be a staple going forward. But I sure hope they are. And with that, thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. I'll see you guys next time.